Everyone take a deep breath. Close your eyes a moment. Another deep breath. Release. Inhale. And release. Your eyes closed. I was saying that to the person whose eyes are still open. I feel you looking at me. Inhale. Release. Keep your eyes closed and just breathe. And let yourself drift. My eyes are closed too, so you don't have to be self-conscious. Just eyes closed and breathing. And let yourself drift into yourself and your life, stuff you've been through. Things you've believed about yourself, having totally lost touch with the fact that God doesn't create garbage, that you're created in His image, having lost touch with how holy and special you are by virtue of being a creation of God. Let yourself drift all the way back to where you're from, giving a review now of stupid moves you made, exile mentality parents, perhaps exile mentality grandparents, because you're born there, you think it's normal, you think it's home. Just let yourself drift back to what life was like for you in an exiled reality, where the priorities and the focus of the life of our tribe of Israel was muddled and perhaps not existent at all for many of you. And where exactly do you wind up when you're walking in the dark and you don't have a light? Let yourself drift back, breathe, deep breath, and let yourself drift back to the circumstances you were in. Again, they were all called normal, but how much have you lost your purity? Clarity, dignity, integrity. Just take it personal. Take the destruction personal. Just for a moment, breathing with your eyes closed. Staying cognizant right now, and even transport yourself right now to the Temple Mount. The lights are off up there right now. So just imagine yourself amongst those trees up there. The temple decimated by the Romans. We're now close to 2,000 years later. And go into your own life of what it meant. What did it mean to grow up in exile? What does it mean Meaning, I'm talking on a practical level, where did you wind up? Now, obviously, most of you have places you wound up that you would never, ever share. But let yourself go there, just in a private way now. And how far away you fell from the tribal rights. Now, it could be you weren't raised knowing the tribal rights. You weren't raised with an understanding of the Rambam's Mishnah Torah and the 55,000 pathways of do's and don'ts for our tribe. But where do you wind up when you don't know where to go? It's not just that you didn't know where to go. No one even cared about that. It wasn't even important. Where do you wind up when the important things aren't important? What happens to a person when all you're left with is your desire in the moment, the impulse of that second? Where do you wind up? What happens to your mental real estate? You know, people are protective of real estate. What happened to your mental real estate? What have you let in when you lost your clarity or weren't raised with clarity? How far do you let yourself fall? How far down the rabbit hole of loose clicking on the internet? How far down does it go? And what is the damage of the soul? When we descend down that place. How many people were hurt along the way? Part of the loss of clarity is, over the last years, marriage got bumped up. But there's not a person in this room who would be single. Your parents would have married you off. The word in Yiddish for son-in-law is edim. It means testimony, because your son-in-law is testimony. You took care of your daughter. You didn't throw her to the wolves. Historically, girls got married between 12 and 14. They were cared for and stable, protected. Where's the protection now? You can't even find a girl interested in protecting herself these days. Even tonight, Saturday night in town right now. Saturday night in Tel Aviv right now. You can't even find a girl interested in protecting herself. Son-in-laws are testimony to nothing. And then your worldview, like what's happened to your worldview? If you live in this generation, there is nothing more politically incorrect than Judaism. King David himself says, Ohavei Hashem sinu ra. He used the word hatred there. That someone who loves God hates evil. You hate evil, or are you neutral about it? We live in a generation that's not just neutral about it, but even a discussion of wrong and right is not even politically correct anymore. Everything's meaningless. People are nihilists. Having a value is tantamount to racism. Having values. We live in a generation where the most basic binary thing in this world, male and female, every plant is male and female. Every bird is male and female. Fish are male and female. Animals are male and female. Human beings are male or female, at least in anatomy. We're living in a generation that wants to destroy all values. And how much of the storm winds of that kind of movement taken away your ability to fulfill King David's psalm, who says, lovers of God, Ohavei Hashem, sinu ra, hate evil. Because you can make an inference that if you don't hate evil, you don't love God. Because if you don't hate what God hates, by the way, we're not saying who. We're talking about evil as itself, not the evildoer. We're talking about the behavior. If you don't hate what God hates, how much can you love Him? How much has it impacted your relationship with your parents to stay single these years? All of you would have your own homes now. But how many of you sitting right now can't have more than a few word conversation with your parents? The two people in the world who would do anything for you, they would sell their home and everything they owned if you got in a medical or legal emergency. But you can't even have a conversation more than a few minutes because in this crazy world we live, with all the loss of clarity that Beis Hamikdash, that the temple represented, instead of us being independent agents in our own homes, every girl must somehow usurp her mother. Every boy must somehow outdo his father in a power struggle. So the people who love you most are the people you're coldest to. And we think it's normal. Because with all the losses, it's become normal to stay single. And how do you ever become a man with a father? And how do you ever become a woman with a mother? And so you have to diss them somehow. And has it been a blessing to be born as a sibling of you? When you lack clarity, is it a blessing to be your sibling? Did you make it better or worse? And what about people who trusted you, friends? Where are they now? What happened? And who did you influence if you're more influential? Who did you convince to do stuff that in the end was bad? A Jew has a search engine with working memory, like a computer with working memory of 1,000 terabytes. But if you're raised secular, it's like the only program you have is calculator, which doesn't even require more than 2 gigabytes. Sorry, 2, whatever those things were called. Megabytes. You're like a Lamborghini in traffic. And what a waste. How much of it has been a waste? How much is your secular knowledge versus Torah knowledge? How could a Jew ever get to your age and know more about secular subjects than Torah? I'm just asking you right now to go into the impact. What is the impact of exile? What is the impact of living in a world without the clarity? So I'm going to ask you to share with the person next to you. Take turns sharing, groups of 2, at most 3. I mean, if you have to, you can have more than 3, but it's not going to be that long a share, so I want groups of 2 or 3 max. And just take 5 minutes each and share where the exile's taken you, so that you can mourn the temple that is you. The body temple that houses the soul, the mental real estate, the purity of the body, the covenant of the bris, the values of our tribe. Where has it taken you? After that, we can get a chance for several people to share from a place of deep emotion. Don't be afraid to cry while you share. In fact, if you share something that brings tears, that's better. But everyone take a moment and share a story. And you can start by the words of where exile took me. Try those words together now. Where exile took me. Try it. Where exile took me. Again, try it again. Where exile took me. And now opening your eyes and just share with the person next to you where exile took you. We'll do this for 5 minutes each.